Hi everyone. In this particular section, we are going to talk about version history in SharePoint. So what is version history? Whenever you make a modification within a document, SharePoint Online creates a new copy of that document so that you can go back in time and can review the previous versions. Document versioning creates a historical record of the changes done within the document. It shows the date and time when a change was done within the document and the name of the user who made the changes within the document. Let's assume you have a large document that includes lots of the information. And if multiple users are working on that document, this will become very difficult to track all the changes. SharePoint tracks each user's changes and are saved as a new version. So this way, you can easily track who made what changes within a document. Let me show you this practically. I have few documents in this document library. So if you want to see the version history for a particular document, right click on the document or you can click three dots and here you will click version history. Here we can see only two versions of this document, version 1 and version 2. Along with the version names, we can see the date and time when this particular version was created. And we can also see the name of the user who last modified this particular document. And we can see the size of each version. Let's close this for now and let's open this document. In this document, we can see two columns, item A and item B. Let's add some more columns, for example, item C and item D. This is online version, so we do not have to save this file. So let's go to version history again. And now we can see three versions. This is the latest version that we just created. So if I open version 2 of this document, we can only see two columns, item A and item B. But if I open version 3, here we can see four columns, item A, item B, and item C and item D that we just added. So that means version 2 is the old version of this particular document and the new version is version 3. So this is how SharePoint maintains the version history. SharePoint maintains version history for the site list as well. If we go to a site list and right click on item, click version history. Here we can see the version number, version 1, version 2. We can see the date and time when the modification was done. But in case of site list or in list item, we can see the changes also, what changes were made on that particular item. Here we can see all these changes were made on this particular item. And apart from that, we can see the username also who last modified this particular list item. Now, if I make any changes within this particular item, let's say I change this to sales and let's go back to version history. We can see another version, version 3, and here we can see the changes. Department value is changed to sales. So this is how version history works on the site list level. So whenever you will upload a file to a document library, or you will create an item in a site list, or you will make changes within the document, or you will make changes within a list item, SharePoint will create a version history for that particular document or the list item. We will understand the use of version history in detail in one of the upcoming videos. Hi everyone. Now let's understand the concept behind major and minor version history. If we go to the version history of a document, by default, we see the major version history. For example, if we go to version history for this particular document, here we can see the version numbers like 1.0 2.0, 3.0. So these are the major versions. Let me create a column within this document library for version history so that I can show you properly. You know how to create a column in SharePoint like we discussed in one of the previous videos when we talked about metadata. Now, if you want to create a column for version history, you cannot create it from add column. You will not see version history data type here. Or if you click show or hide columns, in this list also, you will not see version history. So what you need to do, let's close this. And at the top right, you will click all documents. And here, click edit current view. On this page, scroll it down and look for version history. So you will select version and click OK. And this way you can create a column for version history. So a major version history can be identified as 1.0, 2.0 or 3.0. And a minor version history is like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 and so on. If I go to settings and go to library settings, more library settings, and here go to versioning settings. On this page, you can manage all these settings for version history for this particular document library. So by default, SharePoint creates major version history. Here you can see this option, create major versions. But if you want to create a minor version history, you can select create major and minor versions. And scroll down, click OK. And let's go back to document library and let's make some changes to this particular document. Let's add item E and let's close the page and let's go to version history. Now here we can see three major versions 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0. But this one 3.1 or 3.1 is the minor version. And let me close this page and refresh. So here we can see the versions. These are the major versions and this one is the minor version for this particular document. Let's consider one example and things will be more clear. I have a user logged in on another browser and this user has read-only permission on this particular. So let me open this site here. And let's go to library settings and go to more library settings and click versioning settings. We have versioning settings here as well. Let me close this page. And on this page, under draft item security, you will see an option that says who should see draft items in this document library. This setting means till the time you are working on a document in this document library, who all can see the recent changes done within the document. And you have three options. Any user who can read items, only users who can edit items, and only users who can approve items. For now, let's select only users who can edit items and click OK. And let's go back to document library and let's make some changes within this document. Let me add one more column. Let's close it and refresh the page. So we have a new minor version that is 3.2. And let's go to another browser where a user is logged in who has read-only permission on this site. Let's go to documents and open this document. So here he can only see these items. He can't see the changes that we have done within this document. When we added item E, it created a minor version. And when we added this particular column, it also created a minor version. So this user can only see major versions. And if I go back here on this document library also, he can only see major versions. He can't see minor versions. Like the site owner or the administrator can see the minor versions. This user can't see the minor versions. So this is the use of minor version. In nutshell, a minor version is a work in progress. Till the time you are on a document, you are working on a document, the other users will not be able to see the changes that you are doing within the document. Now the next question is how other users will be able to see the changes that you have done within this document. So the first way is you can republish a document. For example, if I right click on this document and click more and click republish, here you can add comments like work is done, for example, and click publish. Now it will create another major version. We do not see the minor version. If I right click on the document and if I go to version history, here I can see all the versions. I can see three major versions. I can see the minor version, and then again I can see the major version. So when you republish a document, this creates a major version of that particular document. And if I go back to another browser, let's refresh. Now this user can see the major version. This is the updated version. And if we open this document, we can see all the changes, the recent changes, the two columns that we added. Now this user can see all the changes done within this document. So this is the one way to upgrade a document from minor version to major version. Now, if I go back to SharePoint site and let's make some more changes within the document. And let's close this as well. And let's refresh the page. Now this will again create a minor version of this particular document. And if I go back to the other user, go to document library and refresh, he can't see the minor version. He can only see the major version. Now, if I will republish this document again, this will create another major version for this document, and the other user will be able to see the major version of that document. The another way to upgrade a document to major version is check out and check in. When you check in a document, this also creates a new version for a document. So let's right click the document and click more and click checkout. Now this document is checked out, and let's right click and click check in. Now here you can see the versions of this particular document. 4.3 is the current version. 4.2 is the previous version. If you want to overwrite the current version to this version, you can select this option and then click check in. But we want to publish this document, so we will select 5.0 that says major version publish. If you want to add comments, you can and click check in. So now this will create another major version of this document, and this document is published. Now if I go here and refresh, now this user can see the major version of this particular document. And if he opens this document, he can see all the recent changes done within this document. So this is how major and minor versioning works in SharePoint. As we discussed earlier, whenever you make any changes within a document or within a list item, SharePoint creates a new version history. Now let's assume you have a document on which multiple users are working. And let's say you are not happy with the changes that they have done within the document. So you can refer to a previous version of your document and you can restore the document to that previous version. Let me show you this practically. If we go to version history of a particular document, we can see multiple versions for this document here. Now, if I open the latest version, this is the latest version 5.0. If I open the document, we can see all the recent changes done within this document. But if I open a previous version, let's say I open this one, we can only see two columns because this is the previous version of this document. Now, let's assume I'm not happy with the changes those are done recently within this particular document. So what we can do, we can restore this document to its previous version. So let's suppose I want to restore this particular document to this particular version when there were only two columns in this document. So I'll click on this drop down arrow next to the version to which I want to restore, and here I'll click restore. Now, when you restore a document, SharePoint will create another version for that document. Now, this is the latest version. This is the minor version for this particular document. Now, if I open this document, we can see only two columns because now this particular document is restored from this version. And this is the latest version of this document. Now, if you want, you can delete the previous versions so that you have only one version for this particular document. If you want to delete a version, you can click on the drop down arrow and click delete, click OK. This will delete the particular version. If you want to delete all versions or if you want to delete minor versions, you can do that activity from here. Likewise, you can restore a list item to its previous version. Like we have this site list and we have this list item. So if I go to version history for this particular item, we can see these many major versions. We have three versions here. Now, if I want to restore this particular list item, we recently changed department value. Earlier it was HR, now it's sales. So let's say we want to restore this particular list item to HR. So I'll right click the list item, go to version history. So here we changed it. It was HR and then it was changed to sales. So let's say I want to restore it to this particular version. So I'll click restore, click OK. Now this will create another version for this list item. And here we can see it has been restored to HR. Let's close and refresh. And we can see the department value is restored to HR. So this is how you can restore the document or list item version history. In SharePoint, any user who has required permissions on the SharePoint site, he can see the version history and he can restore a document or a list item to its previous version. But as a SharePoint administrator, you might want to stop this. You might want to restrict users from viewing the version history and from restoring a document or a list item to its previous version. Now, there are two ways to achieve this. Either you can disable the version history completely, or you can create a permission level and you can assign that permission level to the users. I will not recommend you to disable version history in your SharePoint environment because if you disable version history, you will have only one version for a particular document and you will not be able to restore the document to its previous version. So instead of disabling the version history, you should create a permission level and assign it to the users so that they can't see the version history. Let me show you this practically. Let's go to settings, go to site permissions, advanced permission settings, click permission levels, and let's click edit. So I'm going to clone a permission level. Either you can create a new permission level or you can copy the permissions from an existing permission level and then you can uncheck the permissions that you do not want. So I'll scroll down and click copy permission level. So now we have a new permission level, but it has all the permissions that we have within the edit permission level. So first, let me add a name. So I'll give it a name like edit, no version history, for example. And if you want to add description, you can like edit permission, but no version history like this. And under list permissions, I'll remove view versions and that's it. List permissions are applicable to the document library and the site list. So let's click create. So now we have a new permission level, and with the help of the description, we can easily identify what exactly this permission level is. Edit permission, but no version history. So this will give edit permission to a user on a particular site or document library or a list item, but that user will not have any access to the version history. Now the next step is we will assign this permission level to a user. So let's go back. So we will click grant permissions and I will add a user Peter Smith, show options. And from here we will select this permission level that we just created, edit no version history and click share. So I'm logged in with Peter Smith on another browser and let me copy the URL of this site. Let's open this site here. So let's go to document library and right click the document. So we do not see version history option here. So this user has added permission on the complete site. He has added permission on the document library, on the site list, but he can't see version history for this particular document or any document within this document library. And even if he goes to site list and if he right clicks, he can see the version history, but as soon as he will click, he will get error, sorry, you do not have access. So this is how you can prevent the users from accessing the version history. Now let's talk about the version history settings. Let's go to settings for this site and go to library settings, more library settings, and click versioning settings. So from here, you can configure all the settings for this document library. The first option is content approval. Site lists and libraries often contain sensitive information. By enabling this option, you can ask for an approval whenever some changes are made within the list items or within the files. And once the changes are approved by the approver, those changes will become visible to the users. Under document version history, you can select if you want to create major versions or you want to create both major and minor. By default, SharePoint will create major versions. But if you want to create both, you can select this option. And the next option is version time limit. Here you get three options: no time limit, automatic, or manual. If you select no time limit, which is the default value, then the version numbers will not be deleted as per their age. If you select automatic, SharePoint will delete the versions basis on their age or as per the activity done on the document. And if you select manual, it will ask you to type the number of days after which you want the versions to be deleted. Then we have version count limit. Here you can specify the number of versions you want to create for a particular document. And once this number is exceeded, SharePoint will delete the old version history for that document. For a document library, you can specify a value from 500 to 50,000. Then we have draft item security. We have discussed this already. So this setting is used when you have minor version history enabled, and if you are working on a document, you can decide who can view the minor versions till the time you haven't republished the document. And the last one is require checkout. Under this setting, you specify that if a user has to check out a document if he wants to make any changes within the document. By default, this particular setting is disabled. So any user who has required permission on the document library, he can edit the document without checking it out. Likewise, we have version history for the site list as well. Let's go to site list. We have this site list with name test. Go to settings and go to list settings, and here go to versioning settings. So on the site list level, you can set approval if you want the users to send an approval when they make any changes to the list item, and when you approve it, the item will be visible to the other users. You can disable the version history for the list items. You can specify the number of versions to be created for a particular site list item. And for a site list, you can specify a value from 1 to 50,000. And then we have draft item security, which is similar to the document library versioning settings. Now, these settings are applicable for a particular document library and a site list. But in SharePoint Admin Center, we have version history settings. Those are applied on the organization level. Within SharePoint Admin Center, you will go to settings, and here you will look for version history limits. By default, these settings, those are applied on the organization level, are applied to the document libraries and the site list on all the sites. But you can apply these settings on the site level as well, like we just discussed. So in SharePoint Admin Center, you have two settings, automatic and manual. Automatic setting is recommended to optimize the version storage. For administrators, this setting offers the most optimal storage option without having to estimate the version count or age limits. And if you select manual, then you need to specify how many versions you want SharePoint to create and after how many days these versions should be deleted. So if you apply these settings on the organization level and you do not have custom settings applied on the site level, then the site will use the settings those are applied on the organization level. But if you have applied custom version settings on the site level, then those settings will take precedence over these settings.